a present scenario when there is lockdown, social distancing, and India per se is possibly the forerunner when it comes to lockdown, though number of cases are increasing, but there is definitely a lockdown which has prevented certain activities. Now, this particular situation today has led to a very big challenge on access to healthcare. How a patient can approach a doctor for non-COVID type of illnesses. And perhaps, is there an answer? Yes, I think the only answer is go digital. India has few last miles to catch when it comes to telemedicine, because telemedicine is a concept where actually uh, uh, a patient can access doctor remotely for consultations, advice, and certain related things which a patient requires. India per se, since I'm going to talk about more of the legal aspects, let me first, before I move on to the guidelines, let me quickly give you 1 or 2 minutes short on how exactly telemedicine laws work. India doesn't have or did not have any legally binding telemedicine specific law. What we had, that whatever type of services that were being rendered, there were some laws. Prescription, there was a Drugs and Cosmetic Act. There is a data, there is Information Technology Act and data privacy rules. So similar way, dispensing of medicine, there were some pharmacy legislations as well as Drugs and Cosmetic Act again. Quasi advertisement, there was a Drugs and Magic Remedies and Objectionable Advertisements Act. So a lot of things, and of course, over and above it, the most important legal angle was Medical Council of India, the then Medical Council of India, because which is now not there, but we have now National Medical Commission. But doctors required to follow certain guidelines under Indian Medical Council Act and Medical Council guidelines. Now, these pose significant challenges because there were certain regulations and requirements in the medical council guidelines that a doctor in a particular state may not be in a position to advise patient sitting in other states. That created some kind of ambiguity. The second challenge was, of course, we'll touch upon later, and we have stalwarts on technical side, is on the awareness on part of doctors. And the biggest fear, I was a surgeon for 15 years before I became lawyer 16 years ago, is the fear of not knowing and committing some mistake which will lead to some kind of a liability when we don't know everything or anything which is perfect. And that is another important point. So whenever the legal aspect comes, people talk of liabilities. And I'm extremely happy and overjoyed. I'm using the word overjoyed that Government of India has come out with telemedicine guidelines on 25th of March, which is an excellent document which is giving very good guidance and information to the doctors. However, whenever any guideline comes, there is a challenge. Whether this guideline is just a guideline, which is a self-regulation, or it is a legally binding guideline. So I will just touch upon 2 or 3 important parts from legal perspective, whether what exactly the legal perspective of these telemedicine guidelines which are released in March. And when you have some guidelines, there would be some kind of best practices that would be recommended in guidelines. And when you talk about best practices, what comes the do's and don'ts. And when you think of don'ts, the most important thing which will come into telemedicine guidelines is you are sitting on a huge data. And the data is going to be a medical record, which is a sensitive information which I touch upon. So let me firstly touch upon the legal aspect. Most important point we need to understand on these particular guidelines which are released by Board of Governors on supervision of Medical Council of India along with Niti Aayog and released by Ministry of Health is applicable to registered medical practitioners which are allopathic doctors. This particular guideline does not cover other doctors like Ayush. However, Ayurveda Council and Homeopathy Councils and Siddha Councils have come out with their own guidelines, which is on the similar lines, which is also applicable when they use telemedicine platform. So it's a great initiative or a great start by the government to allow telemedicine activities. So second point is binding nature. Yes, this telemedicine guideline is binding because it is coming under Indian Medical Council Act. However, this is binding to the registered medical practitioners, which are allopathic doctors who are registered with Medical Council of India in respective states. Now the challenge that is really happening here is, what does it not cover? It is giving excellent guidance right from what are the modalities to use, what should be done, what should not be done. But there are certain important points I would like to highlight when it comes to telemedicine. It is binding for doctors, but the the challenge is it does not cover any other stakeholder, because telemedicine is not just doctor. Telemedicine would require some kind of a technology platform, some kind of a bandwidth requirement. There could be a telemedicine center, there could be software providers, there would be hardware providers. So I will just quickly read upon one particular thing, which I think from law perspective, it is very important for all of us to understand. And we are going to discuss how exactly this can be taken. This guideline has a specific exclusions, which are very relevant from law perspective. The exclusions I will just read out. The guidelines specifically, explicitly exclude the following: specification for hardware or software infrastructure building and maintenance, data management systems involved, standards and interoperability, use of digital technology to conduct surgical and invasive procedures remotely, other aspects of telehealth such as research and evaluation of continuing education of health and healthcare workers, and does not provide for consultation outside the jurisdiction of India. So these are very important points from law point of view, that these are the 4 or 5 important factors which are explicitly excluded. So anybody, any doctor or a service provider who is tying up with hospitals or doctors and providing such services, they need to be aware of this purely from law, because liability can arise. If there is a foreign doctor advising Indian patient, then this particular, it will be a kind of a breach. It will be a breach on part of uh, uh, the person who is performing this particular service. So broadly, these are the legal aspects. Quickly, it covers only allopathic doctors and is legally binding in the Indian Medical Council Act. Period. Now, it also gives some important best practices which needs to follow. But what I think need to understand is what type of communications you need to use. That is number one. Number two, what type of data you will capture, generate, save, store, and transmit. That is also important. The guidelines have also categorized various medications into various lists, like list A, B, O, and there is a prohibited list also. There are certain drugs which cannot be prescribed. And the third and most important point, they will say what you are talking, saying, you must cover. So purely on do's and don'ts, most important thing is that you need to follow the recommendations which are there in the guideline. I don't want to enumerate everything for the want of time, but it is very important for the person who is using this or being used by somebody else. Please be watchful on type of drug you are prescribing. Number two, what modality you are using, whether it is falling within the guidelines. And it is most important point here is that please ensure that the identity and the basic details and the history of patient is taken down and recorded. And the most important thing, don't be under that impression that, hey, I'm doing things online. There is no need to document everything. Please, 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 being a lawyer, I would say to doctor in me, please document. This is the biggest problem I think the medical fraternity had. I hated documentation for 15 years. I realized the importance of documentation on 16th year when became a lawyer. And the most important point is that data privacy norms need to be followed. And why these do's and don'ts are important? Because guidelines very specifically mention that this is, though it is binding, but all other prevailing laws which touch upon this kind of services would be applicable. There's a data privacy laws would be applicable, prescription things would be applicable, drugs and cosmetic act would be applicable as and when it touches. However, the good part is the guidelines has provided format of prescriptions. We are going to touch upon how exactly the consents need to be taken. If patient is initiating, then implied consent is fine. But if as a doctor you are as a doctor, if you are initiating the entire telemedicine consultation, there is a need for express consent also. So broadly, these are the things I think you need to cover. So to sum up what I said, I think I would just like to end by saying very important point that whether you love law or hate law, you just can't ignore law. And I'm reminded of my favorite statement by Michael Kirby of Medical Technology and Frontiers of Family Law. He once said that the hare of science and technology lurches ahead. The hare of science and technology always lurches ahead. The tortoise of the law ambles slowly behind. I'm very happy that we have these guidelines. We'll answer your questions. But what I'm trying to say, in today's time, especially when we are have you to use telemedicine to the fullest, no hare is going to sleep. So that tortoise can, at a slow and steady pace, can win the pace. You have to develop that attitude of tortoise with the speed of hare to develop that particular best practices to become a winner.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.